Okay, it is 7 o'clock. So I would like to call the August 8th, 2023 meeting of the Winchester Board of Ed to order. And we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And can we now do the roll, beginning with you, Renee?
Renee Waldron,
Jeanette Broder,
Tara Sunday,
Nora Mukarski,
Doug Fanninger.
Melanie Brady Shanley.
Sandra Strubar.
Tori Lavetri.
Kristen Peterson.
Thank you. Agenda review, there's a couple things I would like to change. One is that I would request that, as a courtesy, we move the presentation from Greenleaf to the head of our agenda. And secondly, as an action item, we need to approve the disbursement of up to $50,000 from the state payment that we are expecting to receive from the state that we discussed earlier. So we need to approve that. And that would be to make whole the salary reductions that were given by the unions in anticipation of a budget cut. Okay, so.
I make a motion to move up Greenleaf presentation and then the discussion and possible approval of the more than $50,000 from the state for salary reduction.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Where would
Oh, right.
discussion be?
That would be under board action items. Any discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. So, for my comment, I would just like to welcome Kevin Seabrook here from Greenleaf. I will tell
Mr.
you
Chairman,
that.
point of order.
Oh,
Can
yes.
we, not done adding, or asking to add, I would like to add, under discussion and possible action, discussions around contract negotiation with Gilbert to the agenda, please.
Under board action items.
Yes, sir.
No. Under action items or
Discussion or
action,
possible
possible action?
Yeah.
Please.
Okay. Okay, that's a motion. Is there a
Second.
second to that?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor of that? I have no objection to that. Okay,
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Okay, with that being said, Kevin gave a presentation to the Gilbert School a while back, and quite frankly, it was extremely clear and covered a breadth of the whole solar possibilities that we had not heard before at Gilbert. And I was impressed enough to ask him to meet with Melanie and I and discuss the possibilities for us as well. And he's here tonight to do that. He's, I think, already prepared preliminary presentations or proposals for both schools. Yes. And that's what he's here to talk about tonight. So thank you for coming, Kevin, and look forward to hearing from you.
So just to kind of give the board some background to the conversation here with Kevin. So since May, June timeframe, there's been some shifts. Because we have not had some board meetings over the summer, we've had to make a shift because of the direction that this opportunity here has posed for us. It went a whole lot more financial. It was more financially profitable for us in the long run to go this direction. So we had a very finite deadline of the beginning of August prior to this board meeting to make a switch. So Kevin's going to present the switch that was made over the course of the summer, moving from Green Bank to Greenleaf, and what that is going to entail. Part of the switch entails the fact that the Pearson School also needs a roof. We know in the next probably less than 5 years. At this point, the roof is 44 years old and well past its life expectancy. And this process is enabling us to be able to get a new roof through this process without us having to front the cost of roof, while also owning the solar system panels, not the system, without having to use the power purchase agreement, the PPA that we were originally talking about. So this will provide us more long-term financial power rather than short-term purchase agreement that we were seeing before. And Kevin's going to go into great detail about that this evening and show you for the next 20 years, I think, the projections of what we can expect to bank off of both of these buildings. No pun intended. But let me get you into, Kevin, do you want me to guide you or
I
are you
think I can
good?
drive this from here if everybody can see that,
Okay.
okay? Thank you, Doug and Melanie, for allowing me to be here this evening, and nice to meet,
Much closer, yeah, like that.
nice to meet everyone. The reason I'm here this evening is to just talk to you about solar programs in general and how the market has changed with, most specifically, a bill called the Inflation Reduction Act, which started January 1st of this year. It was part of a much larger bill, but in summary, $380 billion going towards sustainability and other ESG type strategies. And one of the line items in that bill allows not-for-profits, municipalities, and all not-for-profits to actually take tax credits for the first time. And just to tell you, it's not really a tax credit, it's a payment, direct payment from the federal government equal to what that tax credit would have been for a tax qualified company that's paying taxes. And what typically happened up until this new bill is power purchase agreements were the only way for not-for-profits to take some advantage of that very significant component of the solar economics, 30% at the time, by using Goldman Sachs and other for-profit companies to actually own the system during the depreciation cycle, which was the first 7 years. And so what happened in the market is large for-profit organizations would own the system. They'd give a fraction of that benefit back to the person signing the power purchase agreement through the economics, and you received very little of it. By allowing you to take it directly as a direct payment, you get 100% of it. You do need to own the system in order for that to happen, but it's a significant change in how not-for-profits do solar. And again, it just started January 1st, so fairly new. Some guidance is still forthcoming on some of the rules, but that's really what's driven to the success we had with Gilbert, and introduced me to Doug and here tonight when I heard that you were looking at solar. So just to back up for a second, Kevin Siebrecht, Greenleaf Energy, Oxford, Connecticut, has been our base for 23 years, been in the energy efficiency space, doing all the lighting, like I'm sure is all done in the town and school buildings, HVAC, all of that. And then our clients were constantly in the last 5 to 7 years asking for more, asking for renewables, asking for solar. And so we've been dedicated in Connecticut for that long. We're actually a national company, but most of our business still resides here in the northeastern Connecticut, because that's where we came from. We've touched most of the 168 or so municipalities in the state over the last 23 years. I've done work with all of the state universities and lots of folks. We did a huge lighting project at Gilbert 4 or 5 years ago, which led us to, under Susan Soika, which led us to a new energy project recently, is how I met Doug. So back to what we're talking about. When we found out about the opportunity, the Connecticut Green Bank was talking about bidding for you in a rec program that was a deadline of August 1st. The August 1st deadline was not us. That is Eversource. It comes out twice a year. And there's a bucket of money that they distribute on a first-come, first-served basis. And so we were able to take the Hinsdale and Pearson schools and put them into a proposal and bid application where we submitted on our mutual behalfs for a renewable energy credit from Eversource. And if awarded, we'll find out sometime in October, it adds significant value to the overall project. We're pretty quick at getting them in, and your deal numbers are pretty low, so we're very hopeful that they both get approved, but that's forthcoming. So in solar, the benefits are the offset of the electricity that you're using, called net metering. And the reason net metering is so important is if you don't have net metering, you can't get full retail credit for the power. So when you're paying 13 and 17 cents, I think, respectively, for the two schools, if you have solar on the property, you actually get full retail credit of that transportation and generation charge up to the system projection. The other benefit with solar is tax credits. The tax credits, 30% is standard, but when you're in an economic distressed zone, and if you use American-made products, both of which we did qualify for this proposal, you actually get a 50% tax credit. So proposed in this solar proposal is that the cost of the system will actually qualify the town to receive a 50% tax credit from the federal government in the year following the installation. So if it was installed in 2023, probably too fast, but by the next year, there's a simple form that goes with a filing, and you'll get that money back from the federal government. So 50% of the cost that used to just get kind of gobbled up by the finance companies and given back to you fractionally is the new benefit January 1. Inflation Reduction Act, IRA.gov, a lot of pages. Search for municipal, and you'll see what's relevant to this project.
And that's just, not to cut you off, Kevin, but that's the piece that we were not getting through Green Bank, was the benefit of the Inflation Reduction Act and those credits that we were not getting back. So that's the biggest shift in this conversation from bank to leaf.
And Greenleaf and Green Bank is getting there. And at some point, well, what they've done as the next step is working with us. They've actually developed a finance product, which I'll go through in the economics and show you how the cash flows. So likely the financing of the system, because you will own it, will go through the Connecticut Green Bank as well. Pseudo Connecticut organization, preferred rates and terms, and just simple auto approval. We do have municipal financing programs that preceded the Green Bank, but we always like to use the Green Bank when we can. So when I came into the opportunity, the two schools, one you were already talking about doing in a PPA, the other had been maybe not considered yet because of the roof. With the ownership program, because the economics are so great, the return on the offset at 100% net metering plus the tax credit, the Green Bank and other municipal finance companies will allow you to finance in the package anything that needs to be done to get the building prepared for solar. So in the case of Pearson, where we need to consider the roof, the good news is you really have 5 years left on the roof. It's probably not leaking. Once a roof is leaking, the repair cost is typically 4 or 5x of what a restoration cost would be. In the case of Gilbert, which I'm sure I can speak of, they had a very significant quote to do more of a tear off and replace through a couple of roofing companies, but restoration has become the way of the roofing business in the last few years, where if it's not penetrated and there's no water and no mold and no issues, you can actually do a GE product, so the warranty is as valuable as the term of the warranty, which gives you a 25-year warranty on the roof for an 80-millimeter silicone seamless application over the existing roof. So the roof is cleaned and prepared, and this new application is put on. Pardon me. You get the 25-year warranty at a fraction of the cost. I think in the case of Gilbert, it was probably less than half of what others were quoting. There's no magic to it. When you're putting solar on top of the roof, that acts as the ballast and some weight on top of the silicone, which allows you to kind of do that. So it's a combination program.
That's because these are all flat roofs?
Yes.
Okay.
100% flat roofs, it works.
It wouldn't work on pitched roofs.
No.
Okay,
No,
flat
pitched
roof
roofs,
only.
pitched roofs, we're still doing shingles. Solar shingles sometimes, but not quite there yet. So to kind of accelerate into the economics of this, there's two proposals out there which Melanie can share around with you. In the proposal shows a little bit about us. I won't waste my 7 minutes on that. The warranty on panels, as I told you, 25 years production warranty, which means the economics in the model we're doing is based on guaranteed production values. So the systems are monitored by you and by the Green Bank or whoever's financing it. And so if in 25 years there's the production isn't happening, the alarms go off and a panel will be replaced. But it's a 25-year production warranty, how much the panel's gonna produce. The next slide shows the simulation of what a proposed rooftop system would look like based on the equipment that's up there, what we need for setbacks, et cetera. That system is about 167 kW, kilowatts. That could be value engineered once we get on the roof, once we have the report, and we may move that around a little bit, but in essence, that's what it looks like. Not blue, it's just that way so that you can see it. The nice part about panels today is they're called bifacial, which means they actually make power from the underneath. So when you have a white roof, you actually get the reflectivity, which makes the economics and the production of the system much better than they were even 3 or 4 years ago. So that's a nice benefit.
Does this depend on removal of trees?
Depend on what, ma'am?
Removal of trees?
No. Are there, no, the shade reports, all of the tools would have identified that. The way these are bankable numbers when you talk about the production, and pretty sophisticated. They know weather reports from the surrounding airfields for 20 years, and cloud and sun and angle, and also, with all the Google, and they know where trees are, where they'll grow. There's a lot put into this. So not that I'm aware of, there's no tree removal.
What was the snow guard it says? We've been curious about snow and how that would affect us.
I think that was an extra item as set, not included.
Oh, okay.
Additional services, did you see
Got it.
snow guards? Yeah, additional services. If we were putting these on a sloped roof in front of a doorway, you would want to put something so that it doesn't slide down and create a big pile or, God forbid, fall on somebody. But no, the parapet wall will, I don't think you're going to even see the panels from the ground. Usually the parapet wall hide the panels. They're pretty low to the ground. No snow guards required. Also included in the economics is understanding snow and snow cover and melt time and temperature. So this doesn't require anybody to go up there and clear snow. That's all built into the economics of just the life of the system.
Kevin, could you also explain that there's no roof penetration required to install these panels?
A great point, Doug. So one of the other benefits with school buildings, because of how they're structurally built, they have a lot of extra weight available. And so there's no need to penetrate the roof anymore. They're ballasted systems, so if you just imagine the racking with ballast, bags, sandbags, cinder blocks, on top of the racking to hold the panels in place. So we're not going to be affecting any warranties on, there's slip sheets in there, and the company who just did the roof will through the process, in order to get the financing through the Green Bank, will sign off on the warranty and everything, so it's a full, very thoughtful, we're not going to void your warranty, we'll actually reinstate it, if you will, with the warranty.
What happens if they blow off?
Well, if anything happened, physical damage, and there was a wind of 190 miles an hour, that's just going to be, it's going to be an insurance claim, like any other equipment on your property. Yes.
You don't offer repair in those cases.
We would do the repair, but it would be covered by
have
your
to
insurance
pay them.
company.
We own them.
You would own them, yes, yes. Even in the case of a power purchase agreement, I think you're responsible for physical damage if
Okay.
something happened. But it just becomes part of the insurance, just like if you added an HVAC unit, like I think you're doing elsewhere, it's just equipment.
What are they rated to? What wind?
I think I'm speaking a little out over my skis, I think 130 miles an hour. I know we did some in the islands and they had to be 180, but I think here's 130.
The weather lately,
Tin-
I'm serious.
No, that's
That's it.
fair question.
Okay.
So in the proposal, which you'll get, this, what I want to focus on tonight is what's we call the PACE, the Property Assessed Clean Energy Green Bank financing option. You do obviously have the option to pay in full for it, but I wouldn't recommend that. Most people use the economics of the solar to pay for themselves. And if you'll follow me here for a second, the top of the page shows 167 kW, if you can see that. The first year's production, 201,000 kWh. Your current cost of power, the offset rate is 13 cents. The amount financed, the cost of the project with the Green Bank, 429,000. The tax credits, as I explained, 210,000. There's a couple of fees in there that don't qualify, so almost 50%. Then it talks about first year benefit and the net cost. Going down to the larger description, you'll see year one, capital needed is 0, the production 200,000. The offset on your electric bill for this project, at 13 cents is savings of 13,000. You'll notice that that's half of all the numbers below. That's because it's factored in here to take 6 months to get it installed. So from the time this loan starts and we say go, we're only gonna realize about half a year's savings, first year, 13,000. The rec income is what we bid into Eversource for again, half, about 5,000. So year one, no money out of pocket, system gets installed, you bank all the way to the right, $18,000. Year two, the system's up and running, it produces just 0.4% less power. That's standard degradation for modeling. It's actually not that bad, it's actually a little better than that. The cost of power is up by 0.2%, but your revenue is a full year, 27,000, and your rec, 10,000. So you have a 40, so right there you have $37,000 benefit. Put your 37 on top of your 18, if you're following me, and then make your first year's payment of $43,000. That's a 20-year note, a 15-year note on the total balance. So at the end of year two, you're still, right column, $13,000 cash positive. Year three, and the reason this works so well is in year three, you're long gonna have that tax payment back from the government. We put it out that far just to be uber safe, and you're gonna make that additional $210,000 payment as a principal payment. The Green Bank will restructure the loan and relay it out over the remaining term. Your payments go from $43,000 to $21,000, and you'll see that it cash flows positive from there forward. The payment of $21,000 is less than the benefit of almost $40,000, so you're banking, in that example, about $18,000 to $20,000 a year. You've put no money out. At the end of the 15-year term in this case, the system is owned and cash flows $46,000, $47,000, $48,000 a year. So once the system is paid for by the economics of the tax credits, paid for by the rec, and the offset on the electricity, the remaining time, 25 years is the warranted life, 35 years is really the effective life of solar. You're not gonna take them off at the end of this spreadsheet in 25 years. They're still gonna be producing, but they'll still be. So in the 25-year warranted life, this system will produce just over $700,000 of benefit to this school alone and require no cash out of your pocket.
So after 25 years, we own them, so if we went.
No, after 15.
After 15, you own them.
After 15 years, we own them, okay, 15 years.
And you're putting about $48,000 a year in the
Okay.
board's budget each year.
What happens if the restoration of the roof fails?
The roof is warranted for 25 years, and it's
So,
a
okay.
solar warranty. It's a great question, because the solar warranty with this GE product not only warranties the roof, but it warranties the removal and replacement and lost opportunity cost if the system has to be taken apart for a repair. So if there's an area that needs repair in year 19, the GE warranty, very important that we're using a product whose name and balance sheet backs up the length of their term. There's a lot of stuff out there that promises warranties that for names I've not heard of, so that's why we like to use the GE
Kevin, was
product.
this off of Hinsdale or Pearson that you did
This
this
is
one on?
this is the,
Is this Hinsdale?
yes. No, this,
That's Hinsdale.
Hinsdale, yes.
Okay, so that was Hinsdale's
That's
financing.
Hinsdale's
So there's
financing.
no roofing for this
No
one
roofing
here,
required,
because
that is already new.
It's new. Our warranty on our Hinsdale roof is 20 years, no matter what
Yeah.
happens. And then they have their warranty on the solar panels.
So no, obviously no silicone restoration.
Not on that,
That would
not on
only
that.
Not
be a
on that,
Pearson.
that's just a
Correct.
Pearson.
This is all contingent upon whether or not the application is accepted, right?
Yeah, well, part of the economics is that, and you do need to get awarded to interconnect, so yes. We did 17 applications in the February round, and all 17 were approved. It is getting a little more competitive out there. We had 9, pretty skilled young folks entering them as feverishly as they could on August 1st, and you guys are right at the top of our list. You have pretty low deal numbers. We're feeling pretty good about it. We know the bucket size, it's 8 megawatts. The bucket, the per deal is only 200, so we know exactly how many deals are gonna get approved. We've done some back of the napkin math and feel both of these will be approved. And then if not, you could do one. I think we put this one in first because, we put Hinsdale in first, but there's another bid down in February. It's a 3-year program, so we could resubmit in February if we missed one of the, or
Because Pearson would be probably the trickier one, right, because of the roof?
tricky because the award's gonna come in October, we're gonna try to get a roof on before the snow flies. The good news is you don't need to. Like Gilbert, we're doing the roof now, even though it's not approved. They're starting next week because they needed the roof. But yes, you're exactly right. Yeah, but there'll be other opportunities to bid in on other rounds if we didn't make it, but feeling pretty good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So on this project where there's a roof opportunity, similar economics, the system's 200 kW instead of 167, so 15% bigger, has a slightly higher cost, slightly higher return.
Jeanette's got it.
The benefit is that with this product, with this roof, we could use that same methodology and go out and look at the silicone, where we just got this in August 1st, so following this meeting and Melanie's direction, we're gonna be out there with the roofing contractor and get you a quote. If the quote is X dollars, it could be rolled into the economics. And because they're cash flow positive with some space, that roof could actually be paid for through the economics of the project. And because some percentage of the roof needs to be done just to do the solar, the guidance from the feds is that you can actually include that in the tax deductible component. So we're doing a 60-40 split right now. So some of the roof will be part of the tax deduction, and then the balance will just all be rolled into the note. But if you get this full package, direct purchase just means paying for it in full as opposed to financing it. The only difference in the economics is some financial costs to carry the note, but it's pretty minimal. Right now, the Green Bank is in the 5s for 15-year unsecured debt. Pretty good stuff for what's out there. So to try to expedite, I'm sure I'm over my 7 minutes. This system is a little bit larger. Again, the same process where they would finance 100% of the project. In the first year, you would bank 50% of the benefit. The second year, 100% of the benefit, and you would roll in that tax credit safely by year 3, lowering the overall principal of the note. 15 years proposed. You can do a shorter term if you don't need the cash flow, save a little interest. You can do a longer term if you want to add more, space in your cash flow initially. That's flexible. I just picked 15 as kind of our standard get started number, but there's different terms available.
Were you able to factor in the anticipated extra use for Pearson with the AC that we're going to be installing?
So we've maxed out the roof.
You've maxed it out.
Maxed out the roof, and to go bigger, you'd have to go ground mount. I can tell you that in this document, Doug, this currently only offsets 55% of your, I'm sorry, is that the one you're talking about? Yes.
Pearson.
55% of your consumption. So any additional, if there's land and there's multiple meters, you could do another system. I mean, there are schools and projects we're doing that are 100% offset. And we could certainly, we're doing a huge one for Suffield Academy. I mean, they're trying to be net zero, but you would probably need some land because the roof is maxed out. Did I do the calculation?
I know
No.
initially you had asked for our power bills.
Yes, and we looked at
And I
them.
think Melanie said our power bills wouldn't necessarily reflect our future usage because we're adding AC.
Yes.
And I don't know if that impacts the.
It doesn't impact your cost of power, and that's really what we're telling you, offset based on current bill. So, I mean, if you gave me the loads of the HVAC, I could do some calculations based on weather days and tell you what your electric bill is likely gonna go up, and then tell you that 55% is probably only 40% of your future use. I could do that math for you.
Sure.
No problem. And, if there's space, obviously the bigger system we put on, better for everybody. Happy to look at, supplemental systems. We're doing a pretty big ground mount at New Hartford. and they've got some space they're gonna do. I don't know, I didn't look at the site close enough to know if you have another area.
Probably not at Pearson. Have to take away
If
the
there
ball
was to be
field.
ground mount, where would that ground be mounted?
And,
Maybe the hill from the parking lot.
and not
Custodians
to,
would be really excited not to mow that any longer.
a little bit of a slippery slope, but there's a program called the SAM program where you can actually put a system on a retired waste area that's a capped landfill, or frankly, anywhere in town that has three-phase power access, is up to 2 megawatts, and then do virtual net metering for the entire town. So you could literally, if you had a 2-acre or 5-acre piece of land, put a system and then virtually net meter the difference in a future project in, say, February or next year's bid round. So those are the programs that are out there right now.
Do you have that in the handout?
I have it in an email.
I
Okay.
can email it to you,
Yeah,
Nora.
okay, thank you.
I was didn't want to bring 18 copies, but it's absolutely in the top of Melanie's box. Yes, ma'am.
12 pages, is it?
Uh,
Or you can print as a PowerPoint and do like 6 slides per page.
There you go. Yeah. And so this shows the 2 schools, the 2 layouts, the economics, the return, all the assumptions that are in there. The applications have been submitted. We'll know something early October. Once awarded, you have 3 years to install it. Obviously, time is money. You want to get it installed. If one of them got approved, we could probably get it installed this year. The roof, we could, with a couple other projects, we have the roof teed up for, October, November. There's probably 25 projects in the state and so many roofers to do that, but if that was a priority, we certainly could put you on the top of that list.
And we can pay down additional principal at any time if we chose to, if we had, for whatever reason,
Yes, sir,
funds
yes.
available.
100% prepayment, and Elise and whomever you work with at the Green Bank can give you more specifics. But what I've heard on other calls where that question came up is in the first 2 or 3 years, there's like a 3% payoff penalty on the balance, and then it goes down after like 8 or 9 years, it goes to 0. So it's only, because it's a very low interest subsidized loan, they have and there's some processing fees associated, they have a short-term prepayment, but very small relative to what you would save by doing it. Yes, sir.
Any of, go ahead.
Yeah, really quick, I'm sorry, I know we've got a big agenda, and I don't mean to get like too far ahead, I'm just curious because I don't know a heck of a lot about this, but like, what happens in 2050 or when this reaches its life expectancy,
That question
there
comes
are-
up all the time.
And I'm sure, and then like, I don't know how long you've been doing this, or
The-
like if there's data to show, like, what.
Well, there's not a lot of data of recycled solar panels from 50
Right, that's what I
years
mean,
ago,
right,
right?
it's-
But the metals
yeah.
that are in there and the way the panels are produced, the scrap value is greater than the removal cost. So, after 35 years, which is probably when you'd actually want to remove that, which puts us out, 2060, I guess, the market says that the scrap value of the raw materials is much greater than the removal cost.
That's what I'm just wondering, and who knows where we'll be by then? I mean,
Yes.
everyone will have
Yes.
solar by that point, this won't be like.
I
you
think
know.
so. I
Okay.
think so.
I'm
All the
just-
electric
I'm just
cars
saying.
plugged in.
I
Yeah.
I'm just, everything will look different then, I'm just kind of wondering,
It's a
like,
fair
you don't
it's a
want
fair
people
question.
sitting around in like 2060 to be like, I can't believe it,
Like asbestos tiles.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
regret.
So I'm just wondering how you handle, okay, thanks, that's all.
You're welcome.
So what kind of metals are in there? Are they safe?
100%, yes.
Like no kid is walking around with microwaves around their head or
No,
anything?
ma'am.
Okay,
No.
just making sure.
Should be asking
Good
where they're
question.
mined, Nora.
Yeah,
Those metals.
thank you.
You're very welcome.
Any other questions?
Which school are we thinking about doing first? Hinsdale?
Comparison.
It would be,
Well,
It
hands.
would
Hinsdale.
depend on who
Oh,
gets
Hinsdale
approved.
first?
They're both submitted, so hopefully they both get approved,
Mhm.
but it depends on which one gets approved.
But are we set to do the Pearson AC project?
It is going to be substantially complete on August 25th. They just put the brand-new compressors out front of the building this week.
No,
they're
is
finishing-
there anything on the roof there?
There's just
Because
a few.
that would involve them lifting that. us
No,
doing
everything's on the ground in the front of the building right now, and it's piped through the walls, so
it. Perfect.
it shouldn't impact.
Love it.
And then just one other question about the Pearson roof. It's not completely flat, correct?
No,
some
there's a couple
pitches
pitched
to it?
areas,
Yeah.
but the majority of it is flat, so I'd say 90% of that roof is flat.
So will that pitched part be siliconed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Low pitch. Any other questions?
What kind of maintenance is involved in keeping up a system like that?
There's no moving parts. So typically, what we recommend to folks is for the first 7, 8, 9 years, monitor production. It's all under warranty. And then sometime around year 10, you may want to add an operation O&M contract. So it's very inexpensive for a system this size, maybe $1,500 a year. And then companies like Greenleaf or service companies will come in and once a year look at, just make sure they're straight, make sure they're tight, monitor it for you. But you could buy that today, and a lot of companies sell the O&M contract with the solar. The benefit of buying it now is it rolls into the cost, and you do get 30 or 50% tax credit on that cost. So you get it for 50 cents on the dollar, but you're buying it 7 or 8 years ahead of when you need it. So there is some minor maintenance, but a maintenance contract is the answer. Because it's warranted for 25 years, it just needs to be monitored so you know if it's functioning.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you all. Any other
Thank you.
questions, feel free to follow up in an email, and I'll be checking in.
Very
Thank
Good
you
luck
so
with the rest
much.
of your meeting.
Thanks for all your work.
Thanks.
Public hearing, is there anybody here who would like to address the board this evening? If not, we will move on to the consent agenda. We have 3 sets of minutes to be approved. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve all 3 sets of minutes.
Second.
Wait, I wanted to add something in. This for our minutes that we had for the retreat, right? We did not include into it about the request for more physical activity for students and the discussion therein. And also, too, I was happy to see that that suggestion was kind of taken into account. And, I can't have the whole cake. I got a little slice, and I'm good with that, but we'll keep pressing. But I think we should include that into the BOE retreat.
Okay. Who took those minutes? Nora?
I did, I don't remember taking any notes on that conversation.
It was pretty.
I remember
long.
the conversation.
Yeah.
Also, it says
So
that
were we doing that when we had open forum?
Open dialogue.
Was that open forum?
Open dialogue and I think goals, board goals. That was a goal.
Over there?
and it says the time we adjourned was 1:37 in the morning, so I want to switch that.
You don't remember the sleepover?
So, how do you add that conversation?
cheesecake.
A
Probably just
summary?
add in that there was a proposal, right? To work more physical activity into the day for students. And we had a discussion about it.
And Melanie, you said you would look into it.
Yep, and I have, and Barb, Rosie, and I have worked on a plan to be able to add on Mondays a program called Winchester Walks.
Which is cute.
And we are expanding our partnership with 5210, which is a FIT program that we have currently going on for probably about 5 years now. They're based out of Torrington. So we're going to be working that into this process
That's great.
to incorporate more movement. And we're continuing with Dance Party Fridays.
Cool.
Barb, did you get all that? To add that? I got some
Sorry,
stuff.
Barb.
So, proposal to work more physical activity into the day for students. Melanie will look into it. Do we add that you have?
No, because
No.
it didn't happen.
because
at
it
that
didn't
time.
happen
was
at
for
that
the
meet- at that-
retreat, the request.
All right, so under number 6, open forum. And you wanted to add it as a board goal.
I don't know if we ever even
don't
voted
remember
on it. I
talking
think
about
we had a
No,
lot
we
of
did not.
discussion.
We had the discussion,
just said it was
so
a
maybe just
discussion.
open
So open
forum.
forum,
Yeah.
okay.
I thought the board goals were different than that.
Yeah.
It is.
So proposal to work more physical activity into the day for students. Melanie will look into it. Does that work for you? Okay.
Late
And
for the
we-
school day?
And we're going to adjust the adjournment time to
PM.
1:30 PM?
PM.
Okay, so with those changes, is there a motion to approve the minutes as motioned earlier?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
So that was Kristen and then Jeanette? Okay.
Okay, Gilbert report. I had a meeting this afternoon as part of the Personnel Committee. Negotiations have begun with their administrators, there's only 3, but that is something that's going to go forward. I think this coming year is the last year in the contract, so we're looking at potentially a 3-year contract with the Gilbert administrators. And we just talked about ground rules, so that's in the very beginning stages. The roof that they've been talking about, that Kevin mentioned, is, I guess, already started, which I did not realize. But, what was it, 2 weeks ago? Melanie got a phone call, they needed $200,000, which was the $200,000 that the town had approved as a capital project for the Gilbert roof. And unbeknownst to us, this was going to be necessary to make a payment. And there was a little bit of a kerfuffle, but at the end of the day, they needed the money, that payment's been made, and the roof is
I
moving
did not
forward.
pay the whole thing, though.
Oh,
They
okay.
needed a down payment of 60%.
Okay,
So I gave them the deposit amount that was required per the contract of $160,000. And then when the roof is substantially complete, they'll get the last payment.
okay.
I did not
Does
give
this-
them the full
Does
amount.
this come out of the tuition that we give them?
No, this comes out of the capital account that was established by the Board of Selectmen for the exact purpose of that roof. But it is owned and operated by the Board of Education. So I had to go through my approval process in order for me to be able to cut a check in that amount. So I obtained the invoice from their roofing company in order to cut the check instead of providing the whole amount. We only provided the deposit amount, and then at substantial completion, they'll get the remaining balance.
So it went from the Board of Selectmen to the Board of Ed to Gilbert?
Yes.
Okay. And they didn't want to use their trust, maybe some money's there just to,
No, if you recall, what Kevin
That was
is,
part of the budget.
all right.
what Kevin
process.
is doing with Gilbert is similar to what we're doing. However, Gilbert, having the $200,000 that had been pre-approved, made the decision to apply that $200,000 towards the roofing project, so it reduces their capital cost at the front end. So that's what they did, which will make their return on investment even better, because they'll have a $200,000 less capital investment. Do you have anything else, Renee, I'm forgetting? We haven't really met in a while, so there hasn't been much going on.
No, not
Okay.
so much.
Correspondence, we have some resignations.
Yeah, it's been, some of these are from like June, so mind you, some of these are a bit old. Thomas Bialco from the Gilbert School resigned. He was an interventionist and building sub. We had Addie Meal, who was a paraprofessional. She has resigned. Our library media specialist at Hinsdale resigned to take a job at Farmington, which was only 5 minutes from her house. But we have since hired a position for there. Our EL teacher has resigned over the summer. That was the part-time person. We had an interventionist resign over the summer. We had a paraprofessional resign. We had another interventionist resign, but congratulations to Sarah Ward. She took on a full-time teaching position in Colebrook, I believe, or Norfolk, as a full-time teacher. So we grew a teacher, which I'm excited about for another school district. And Joanna Petty is taking on being a mom and resigning to be a full-time mom. She is due to have a baby in the mid-winter, so she is going to be celebrating being a mom.
And how are we doing on replacing all these folks?
So in your hiring area, we have been very, very busy and very successful, might I add.
But you have a list of who you still need to
Yes.
look at. Okay.
Yeah, which is small, actually.
And we also have the CABE liaison letter and the Alliance District letter from CAPS. Is there anything we need to look at there other than just
I just
acknowledging
wanted
they're here?
to be, one, just CABE liaison letters, just informational for you all. But I also, sometimes people ask questions around the CAPS alliance districts and who they are and what they do and kind of what the data is behind the alliance districts in the state. So I wanted to provide you with what the most recent information is and what the data is on all of the alliance districts within the state right now. So that's just for your purview and just informational for you all.
Thank you.
How long, I'm sorry, what have we done?
Wait, I want to ask a question while you're looking at that, Nora. On that CAPS letter on page 24, it says that we're serving 44% of Connecticut's children. Is that 44% of all children in Connecticut? Or
Of
is that
all
full-
public school children in
Right.
Connecticut.
Okay, that is an outrageous number to
Yes.
me.
So 226,000 students in the state of Connecticut are members of an alliance school district.
In one of the most wealthy states in the entire country and the most highest taxed. Almost
And-
half of our students are in Alliance District.
And one of the most segregated school systems.
Yeah, we should have that conversation too.
And Alliance remains the lowest 32 performing districts?
Right now, I believe there's 36.
36
Yes,
out of 160, is that, is,
165-ish, yeah.
And then my other observation that I wanted to point out to my colleagues is that Connecticut, again, one of the highest income, highest tax state, spends over $1 billion less annually on students who attend Alliance District. Is that a real number?
Yeah, if you actually turn to the next page, if you look at the annual, there's a bar chart on the next page.
Yep.
The
I see
annual
that.
per pupil expenditure on average, you know, across the state. If you look at the Alliance districts, they're spending on average, if my eyes serve me correctly, about $18,699 per student, while non-Alliance districts are spending just over 21,000 on average.
Right, for a non-Alliance districts,
Yes.
which, you know, that's an interesting statistic also. So just looking at the focus policy and funding supports to elevate and prioritize whole child needs, I know that they're asking for support and more money. And a lot of these, I just want to point out, seem like a lot of Band-Aids to sounds like a system that needs some work. Mental health, wellness, prioritizing SEL, attendance across the state. So,
what do you, when you say Band-Aids, what do you mean? You mean they're not significant
well, just-
issues?
You're
or-
trying to
no,
fix
no,
the
no, no,
problem
yeah.
of poverty?
just trying to to slap on a bunch of things that we're trying to fix rather than finding the underlying root cause of why we're spending $1 billion less, why almost half of our kids in Connecticut, which again is a, you know, a very high tax state, and we're servicing 44% of children are in the Alliance District in this state. And Nora, I get what you're saying, and that's
Big onion to unravel.
it's a big onion.
Very
And
complicated.
so we're slapping all these
I think if we
Band-Aids.
kind of figured it out, I think we would have figured it out and actively do
Ah,
it. It's been
I
around
wonder.
for thousands
It
of years.
has, Nora, but I wonder if there's any real will
It's
to
like
fix
But I
it.
think we have figured,
But
I
here,
think,
Yeah,
I think in pockets, districts have found success, and they are figuring it out in some, look at our area here.
I was-
Windsor is
Yes.
another area that's figured it out.
yeah.
You know, there are districts that are having success, you know, the new
Pre-K
legislation.
Initiatives,
Yeah,
birth to
there's new
three.
legislation to begin to move those of us that are currently in alliance districts out. And you know, while I don't want to see our funding go away, I also want to celebrate at the same time that movement that our district has seen. You know,
No,
we're not historically marked and staying stagnant in that area.
Right, and I think that, you know, I mean, this isn't pointing out that we're an alliance district, because we're seeing forward movement, and we're also on the upswing of getting out of it, but it's just shocking to me that in Connecticut, this is our reality, and these are the statistics that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
And Nora, you're right, and Kristen, you're right? The circular problem of, and Doug, it's the Band-Aids are real, but we're, you know, slapping Band-Aids on things that we have to find a will to solve, right? You know, it's
Interesting that the
44%.
graduation rate went up for the alliance districts,
Right, and that
whereas the
stayed steady
non-alliance
with the
districts
non-alliance,
were
yeah,
flat.
yeah.
CAPS, this alliance district has been around since 2014? It's relatively new? The concept of alliance
Yeah, I
districts?
think 2014 is the first time that we had alliance districts.
The concept from the state
Yes.
of Connecticut. I think that's something positive, because at least they're recognizing, hey, we gotta focus on these zones. And I just know in education generally, when you focus on it and everybody's initiatives goes in that direction, you generally find growth. Instructionally, curriculum goes that way. You spend your invested time that you have with the kids. So I think that's positive, at least there's a recognition. And then when we look at the data on the back page, there's an increase of performance. There's something there.
There's movement, for sure.
Yeah.
So I just thought it was interesting, and I wanted to share that with
No,
you
it's
guys, so that
very
you had some
interesting.
background information on that.
Thank you for your comments, Sandra.
Yeah, thank you. And me.
Get a PhD on that one.
Which brings us up to superintendent's report.
All right, we have had a busy, busy summer. Under instruction, I'm happy to report in partnership with Nancy that our school lunch personnel have served approximately 300 summer meals to families on a weekly basis.
3,000, closer to 3,000.
Okay, 3,000, however, it's 300 times 10. So they're getting packages of 10 lunches. So there's been 300 packages of 10 that have been distributed.
But plus Park and Rec, too.
Plus Park and Rec, yes. But nonetheless, we are feeding children and families in droves in this community, and it is just helping to make a huge difference. So thank you to those personnel.
But is it 3,000 per week, really, or is it 300?
3,000, no, it's 3,000 meals.
Per week?
However, like if you go on Wednesday and you pull up and you say, I would like a meal, you're gonna get 10 meals for your child, because it's breakfast and lunch for 5 days.
Got it. Okay.
Do you understand?
Okay, yep.
Yeah. Interviews have been held for special education, paraprofessionals, interventionists, substitutes, and our EL teacher. We've conducted several special education planning meetings throughout the summer. We've met with the technology department and made a plan to ensure proper rollout of machinery for the upcoming school year. We've held several hub transition meetings, and that's our autism program that's transitioning from Hinsdale to Pearson due to the age of those students. A lot of those students were in second grade and are now transitioning to third grade. The administration and coaches, we had our annual summer retreat, and that was very successful. Summer mailers have been sent to both families and staff. New registrations are in process, and we are assisting the summer staff and also assisting parents as they need assistance. We've been working with the new iReady assessment system and are in the process of installing it for the fall administration of benchmark assessments. In June, as you are aware, our fiscal year 24 budget passed on the second referendum. The town recreation camp has been at Pearson all summer long. We've enjoyed working with them. All buildings have been cleaned or are in the process of being prepared for staff and students. Pearson's a little bit behind the 8 ball right now because of the AC installation, but we will get there. Barb and I are chomping at the bit to make sure that that happens. We have completed a myriad of grant applications this summer. We have gone after every single grant that we possibly can find out there, so we've got a bunch of them out there waiting. We did receive the social work grant, mental health grant the other day. I sent the board out an email, so we got that in the amount of $189,000, which is great over the course of 3 years. We have coordinated all walker and busser information with our transportation company. This upcoming year, we are going to be requiring insurance on any computer that a child takes home for the 23-24 school year. So I've been working with an insurance company. It'll cost a family about $30 for coverage on the insurance, and the coverage must be purchased prior to taking a computer home. Most of our children have an iPad or Chromebook at home, but for those students that do not have an iPad or a Chromebook, we are learning our lesson that sometimes there's some irresponsible behavior that's happening at home with our Chromebooks. And when we charge a family $250 because the Chromebook comes back in, I'll just say, disrepair, it's much better if we can charge them insurance of $30 for the entire year and say you have to carry insurance if something happens to this thing, and then it's only $30 rather than a parent having to pay $250 or $300 to replace an entire Chromebook that someone's dog looks like it has attacked. You'd be amazed what some of our Chromebooks have looked like. So this is going to be new for some of our families. We are also going to be offering some homework assistance after school for those families that might not want to participate in doing this with getting a Chromebook at home. So that way the library will be open and students will have access to monitored Chromebook instruction and usage after school. We'll be able to offer that to families also.
It's maxed at $300 a family, $30 a family?
Yes, that is the cost.
So if I have 5 kids, 5 Chromes, I'm paying
No,
$30.
$30 per child,
Oh, per kid?
per
Okay.
Chromebook.
It says per family.
Yeah, per Chrome.
Oh, excuse me, that's per Chromebook.
Okay, that makes sense. It's not uncommon to have insurance, many schools do.
Yes.
So each student doesn't get a Chromebook then? It's just the students that need one that don't have any other device at home that they could use?
Correct. So we normally will ask children and families at the beginning of the school year, do you have a device at home? Most of our children have something at home that they're utilizing. We don't encourage them to use their parent's cell phone because it's just too small to efficiently work on. But most of them have a Kindle, a Chromebook, something at home. In the event that they don't, this will be an option for them, or they can stay after school and utilize school devices that will be supported by staff.
About how many Chromebooks came back in disrepair last year, would you say? Should I even ask?
I would say in disrepair, beyond repair, I would say about 10-ish. However, in the case of, I like to pick the key off of them, that's a frequent occurrence. In the case of I dropped it and my screen cracked, that's a frequent occurrence. So it depends on the severity of the disrepair,
Okay.
There are accidents, truly accidents, and then there are on purposes. And clearly accidents, we get that happens. You trip, you fall, you fell off the bus and your Chromebook was in your backpack, we get that. But then there are other instances where this just in no way, shape, or form can be an accident.
Were these first-year Chromebooks?
Say that.
Were these first year? Or were these
Brand new.
second, third year?
No, so the Chromebooks that we send home are traditionally Chromebooks that are towards their end of life, if you will. Our newer Chromebooks are the ones that we keep in the school
For
buildings.
testing and such.
Yes,
Because they
so,
have to be on a certain device.
correct.
So
Not
even
their
those
home.
older models, the insurance will still cover that?
Yes, and we had to submit their model numbers and like their information, their replacement costs and all that to be able to get the appropriate cost for the insurance.
Okay. Is there a fund for families that might have difficulty?
I was just gonna ask.
So we're going to encourage families that are not going to be purchasing it because we need families to buy in on this because that's part of the issue is that when we've given them out in the past, that lack of owner responsibility has caused damage and lack of proper care. So we're going to encourage families to have their children stay after school if they're not going to be purchasing the insurance, and we will make teacher support available to all of those children after school. So, For HVAC, we are at substantial completion on August 25th. They are going to be finishing up putting the wall units in, and then also the heating units are all in and wired and piped at this point, so we are just a couple weeks away from being substantially complete there. School-based health services at Pearson will be adjusted this upcoming year. They're going to be continuing behavioral and dental services. However, the medical component, is going to be discontinued due to low enrollment and usage. They were only seeing about 1, maybe 2 kids a week for medical services, so they were not financially able to be able to continue that component of the program.
Melanie, back to the Pearson HVAC.
Yep.
You'll do a walkthrough, like a punch list or whatever they call these things for, like, making sure it's all done right. And
I
you're
will
like,
walk through with the contractor, however, as you,
run them all, make sure they're cold and whatever.
we will
right.
have them properly tested. I am not an HVAC expert in any capacity. I have not gotten my license in that area.
Not yet?
But we will certainly test and make sure that they are properly installed.
Okay.
We did do a walkthrough though, last Thursday, I believe, with the head contractor and the subs that are on the job to be able to go room by room and kind of identify what was outstanding in terms of what needed to be done and what floors, whether they were interior or exterior, and where substantial completion was at, based upon their current work.
I have a really quick question about SBHC. So you found in 2022-23 that the medical purchase wasn't being used?
Yeah, so we
Did it
have
decline, like, over the years, or has it just never been?
never really picked up, I would say, the medical component.
Yeah, okay.
However, the behavioral health and the dental clinic has shown great success. Behavioral health, we typically have a wait list with them. But the medical component just never really grabbed. I think everybody locally has a pediatrician that, you know, they've probably had since they've been younger, and
I'm just curious, because I know in some schools they're in high demand.
yeah,
You know,
I think.
so-
Tori. I think there's an age limit on Dr. Cura.
I would like to formally say there is no age limit there.
So
Oh my
Melanie,
goodness.
Is the state of Connecticut giving districts monies for mental health,
Yes.
right? And how much are we getting?
So that was the grant that I just had talked about. We are receiving $189,000 over the course of 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
Year 1 and 2 is $70,000, and then the remaining balance is year 3.
Okay. Will that be paying some of the HBHC?
No,
Or that's gonna be
HVAC is
separate?
self-sustaining. We don't pay for any of their services. They bill on their own, which is their sustainability fees. Our grant that we had written for the $189,000 included a licensed marriage and family therapist and a BCBA, licensed BCBA. What we're hoping to do, because there's a gap right now with services for after school for families and children in terms of, like, you can go and get, trying to remember what the program is, like, there's like a bridge program after school for a lot of kids where like a company will come and pick up the child after school, and then they'll go to like an after school program, and in that after school program they'll get therapy, the family will get therapy, they'll get, you know, different type of trainings together. And the wait lists for those types of family-based programming after school programs can sometimes be 6 to 12 weeks depending upon the time of the year it is. So the goal of the licensed family therapist is to be able to establish that program here in the district so that our families can access a very similar service free of cost here within the district. So that's the goal, is to build in an after-school based program that will support after-school, like, therapy-based programming for children.
Where would that be based?
Pearson.
Makes sense, yeah.
In leadership, the Board of Ed held its annual retreat in July. I have reviewed all the educational legislation. I'm in the process of turnkeying that information to staff and departments that have implications. We've attended 2 trainings on the new insurance program that will add funds to paraprofessionals' HSA or HRA accounts. We've held meetings with the facilities staff to review summer expectations and working relationship expectations. And I last week interviewed with a researcher from UConn on the impact that our district had through the usage of ARP and ESSER funds. And then just a reminder for upcoming important dates. These are the important dates, and they go between now and the upcoming board meeting in September. And then come September's board meeting, I'll add what will happen between September's meeting and the October meeting for you. One of the new things that I've added to your packet, kind of at your request, is a little bit more information regarding our new students that are coming into the buildings and also our staff vacancies that we have routinely throughout the year. So just to be able to clarify for you, and this is as of 8/4, we have one special education position open. We have one building sub/interventionist at the Gilbert School. Our Pearson interventionist right now is pending, so we're waiting on that one, so that's changed since then. And then we also have we've solidified a Pearson para, so you have one more opening, so it is accurate that there's one more para position open at Pearson. In terms of new registration, mind you, this was pending as of 8/4. For Hinsdale, we have 20 new students that are registering for the first time coming into our building. We have 11 new K students, and those have come from moving into town, and 11 new kindergarten students out of the 20. And when we talk about, kind of the needs of those students, we had talked about speaking in general about this, not what grade levels or anything. 6 of those students that we know of right now are coming in with EL services, 504s, or IEPs.
That's out of the 20, not the 11, right?
That is out of the 20.
Did the 11 cause a shift in caseloads where we need, okay.
No, because that's just 11 new kindergarten students. We expect that.
Okay.
And then at Pearson, we have 18 as of 8/4. And then they've come to us because they've moved. They've returned from homeschooling. We actually have 4 students out of the 18 that are coming from homeschooling. And then we have several that have moved in from out of the country. So out of that 18, currently we're aware of 5 of them that will be served through EL services, 504s, or IEPs. And then withdrawals right now, as of 8/4, we have 4 students that will be withdrawing from Hinsdale and 12 at Pearson, and that's usually due to moving.
So the Hinsdale net is about 16, so if I take 20 minus the 4, we got 16 new kids because 4 moved out. Okay, I'm just making sure I understand the chart.
But remember, because some of those could have been 6th grade, just be careful not to net them out like that.
All right.
And which grade is that big grade? Is that second grade?
Second grade
That's
this
gonna
year.
be second grade this year. So
That's the-
then there might be teachers that are moving up to third.
We will have,
After. right?
Yes.
Oh, got it, okay.
because we had to
Not
move
this
one of
year.
our first
Not
grade
this year.
teachers to
Got it,
second
got it.
grade
Okay.
this year. So.
Yeah.
So is that helpful, this?
Yes.
So
Yes.
to kind
Very
of,
much.
is that what you guys were looking for? I can't get much more detailed than that without giving away information.
Perfect.
Okay.
So the Pearson, where do they go? They move out physically, they move out of
A
the
lot,
district?
there's some transiency between here and Torrington. There's also some families that are moving, actually to Heartland. We have some families that are moving out of state, and then we have some that are just moving locally to other towns.
Okay,
So it's all moving.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. In terms of Gilbert, they are expecting an enrollment of 408 Winchester students, 4 international students, and 2 district enrollments, for a total enrollment of 414.
I thought there was supposed to be growth in that international
Yeah. Wow.
program. Is that just
I'm unaware.
I did hear that they might be changing the person who's responsible for recruitment. Hopefully that will make sense. I don't have a lot of detail on it.
Is there any way to tell, I don't know if you would have this number, or maybe Gilbert would have the number, is, how many get, I don't wanna say lost, but how many end up going to regional, are those numbers growing?
Those
Or,
are our numbers.
Yeah, okay.
Because we have
8
to
to
actually
9.
pay for those students
Right.
to go there.
Less than Gilbert But yeah, so I'm just wondering what, like,
Can we get that data too?
Yeah, actually, if you, let me just put that,
other or something? or
I can
like,
put
let me go to
that-
tech and I wanna go to, I don't wanna add to your list.
no, it's, that's
to
actually an
this
easy
page.
number for us to let you know.
How many go
I'd
with?
like to know if that number shifts at all.
So
it does.
number
Yeah.
of,
And I think
It does.
we get that
The
report
first couple
when
months it
students
does.
have to make their
Seven
eighth to
and-
ninth grade transition.
Right,
We find out how many kids opt not to go to ninth to Gilbert.
right, right.
so right now, off the top of my head, for this upcoming school year, I wanna say we have about 13 new kids that are gonna be going for 9th grade to 12th grade at Region 7. And then Oliver Woolkit, off the top of my head, I wanna say was 9-ish for 9th grade to 12th grade, new entrants, not counting the ones that were matriculated there already. But for our next board meeting, I certainly can get you the specifics on those
I
numbers.
just wonder
And
if
then-
that shifts, oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, and
like-
then explorations too, like the choice schools, we have that number by any chance?
I can get you explorations too. Sure, absolutely.
Or just choice school?
We actually,
Us, isn't it?
it's really
Charter.
only explorations right now. Magnets and that, when I first came here, we had around 38 students in magnet schools when I first came. Last check, we had 2.
Wow.
Wow.
So
They all came
in
back?
6.5 years,
Says a
we've
lot.
decreased
Good.
down to 2 students in magnet schools.
I mean, they've
Wow,
brought,
that's really
they've come
good.
back, 9
They-
through 12.
They've either, yes,
And
yes.
they're at Gilbert.
Well, no, or at the elementary level too. So in K to 12,
K
we
through
only
12.
have 2 students left in
Got
magnet
it,
schools.
got it.
So it would just
Good.
be then,
Brought them back.
Yes.
just explorations, then the charter. that
Yeah,
you-
so, and I can
right?
look to see, I mean, maybe we had some additional go out in magnet schools, so I can look,
Okay,
for sure. I added it to my list. And then I think, Doug, the last thing that I have to do is just the budget report. And then the subsidy on the paras. So budget report, these are for projections for year-end fiscal '23. They're not finalized. Nancy's still working on finalizing numbers and bringing things to a close. But right now, we're looking at a hefty $524 left over in the appropriated budget. Mind you, we've shifted what we could into rollover funds, like carryover funds, where we could save some of those funds. We're looking at non-lapsing fund at a balance of $182,000 and grants holding steady at $388,000 carryover for a total of $571,000. And then,
It's 5, Medicaid reimbursements got cut off. Okay.
at the bottom there, you can see the breakdown of the appropriated budget on page 31, and it carries over onto page 32. And then you can see the non-lapsing fund breakdown, what have you. Going on to the next page, which is page 34, you see the breakdown of all of the grants with the grants and then the carryover opportunities. So there's a total amount of $388,000 there. When it comes to food services, we are looking at a year-end balance right now of $14,860, and I imagine, Nancy, we still have some fees to come out of that. Yeah, so that's,
Barb, you gotta make the minutes reflect that Sandra left at 8:13.
yeah. And that's the financial reports. Any
So
questions on
I
that?
got a question, the Winchester, the grant thing,
What page are you on, Nora?
page 34,
Yes,
just so I understand, you know how you got that thick line there, everything below the thick line, or grants that we're writing that are
Yes.
not like Title I and all this other. So this, I just sort of did a ballpark, we're writing as much as 1.1 million plus in grants, huh?
roughly.
Wow.
But I mean,
That's
don't get
great.
me wrong, we're still writing all the federal and state grants
Yeah.
too, because we don't just automatically get those funds. Every single grant has to be written for.
Right, that's great.
So every single, I mean, there's a total of,
work.
roughly $5.4 million
Yeah.
in there that has to be written for.
Can I ask, Seamus was doing some grant writing too as well, right? So Cassandra will be like
She is already well underway. And she was co-writing with Seamus a long way, so.
Return 418. Okay. 814. What did I say, 418? Oh, gosh. Yeah, right, right.
Okay, thank you.
Geez, something wrong with me.
Any questions on the budget? Any other questions or discussion? Good on that? So under action items, we have new hires, and we have one other item we wanted to add.
Yes.
You want to do the new hires?
Sure. So under new hires, just acknowledgement of Teresa Blanchard hired for paraprofessional. William Blanchard hired for paraprofessional. Courtney Capabianca as a long-term substitute, building substitute. Savannah Holland as a paraprofessional. Nicole Hughes as a paraprofessional. Wayne Holbert as a custodian. Mercy Grace Jenkins as a special ed teacher. We have Lydia Johnson as an ELL specialist, and Stacy Labrie as a paraprofessional. I am gonna strike Samantha Malloy. Oh, no, she's back in.
She's at Pearson.
Okay, she's at Pearson now, sorry.
Strike Hinsdale, add Pearson.
Yes, please. And then Ben Puffer as the head custodian at Hinsdale, by the way, doing a fantastic job. Zoe Rinaldi as a special education teacher. Jennifer Titus as an interventionist. And last but not least, Joyce Zaldo as a library and media specialist. Our principals have been busy.
How long did that take? I was gonna say.
That's weeks upon weeks worth of work.
What has your candidate pool been for all these positions? Have you had like a lot of people to choose from, or just one or two?
We've had, the candidate pool has been strong. We haven't had like 20 to 30 candidates, but the candidates that we've had have been quality, which has made interviewing pleasure. Like, it's been pleasurable this year, interviewing, because we've enjoyed interacting with the individuals that we are getting.
That's a different story than last year.
Yes, and quite frankly, a lot of our candidates that we got are very local. Like, many are Winstead residents, which are great. So,
Great.
happy to hear that.
Great.
So if you recall, we had a tentative concession made by some of our unions in order to reduce our budget ask, and what Melanie is asking us to do tonight is to reinstate those concessions, since we do have some money expected in from the state of Connecticut.
Yeah, so we have money expected by the end of the week coming in that we spoke about at our retreat from the state of Connecticut. We had concessions done by certified staff and non-certified staff to be able to get our budget referendum passed. I would like the board to consider reinstating the raises that those individuals concessed during the budget out of those funds that we are expected. So the total that would be asked for would be $52,000 out of this funds to bring whole our non-certified and certified staff members that concessed during the budget timeframe. I am excluding myself out of this concession. What I will ask is that, because I'm supposed to be paid out of the appropriated budget, that if come springtime, we are in a position where we have excess in the budget in the springtime, I will ask the board to consider reinstating my concession in the springtime if there is extra funds available. But I would like to see our staff receive it first.
I'd like to make a motion. Second to reinstate.
Okay. Any discussion, questions on that?
A little discussion. How many people in that are making upwards of over 100,000?
I can. So one of the biggest in the groups that gave in on monies were our administrators, which they concessed over $20,000, which would be Barb, Rosie, and Emily, our three administrators. and their amount to be able to concess off of is 20,000. Let me just, my computer's, just needs a minute to catch up with me. I can give you the specifics on every group.
Please.
As soon as my computer decides to cooperate with me.
I'll stand.
We need a new computer.
If I buy a new computer, Shane, did you just hear that? I need a new computer.
We got $30?
Shane knows the story of my computers.
You get to go back to pencil and paper.
It's so bad.
Just so everyone knows what I'm thinking, you know, since we're in a tight position right now as of this term, my immediate thought would be anyone above 100,000 or below 100,000, we give them their concession back. Everyone above, we wait, as Melanie had said, for the spring.
So,
to
did
see
you
if we had
explain
ever
to
extra
Tori the
monies.
600 and something
So
thousand dollars?
we are receiving,
Oh, I didn't realize, okay.
600.
I'm sorry.
So back in 21, 22,
Yeah.
the state of Connecticut, when they provided us with our ARP ESSER funds, made a mistake on our enrollment.
Okay.
And we had a higher enrollment than they had originally thought that we had. So when they gave us our ARP ESSER funds, they shortchanged us, the state did, by $660,000. So we are going to be receiving $660,000 that is not currently tied to our budget.
Wow, that's good news, huh?
So,
That's very good.
so what I would,
I may recant what I just said. I'm so happy to hear it, guys. That's good.
so what I'm suggesting is for those staff members that graciously gave their salaries to ensure that our budget passed,
Sorry, I
I
wasn't here
would
for
like,
the retreat.
I would like to offer them
Yeah.
the opportunity to be able to have their funds reinstated.
Fair.
But I am saying that I am not going to take mine until the spring because I am supposed to be paid out of the appropriated budget should there be monies available.
Not to be contrary to what you're saying, I think, because I get it, I make significantly less than six figures, but I also don't have the responsibilities, the roles that I think some of the administrators do, that, they work, you know, significant amount of hours and have a significant amount more schooling than I
Talk
do.
into your mic, so.
I think,
Take the win.
what's that? No, I know.
I wasn't aware of the $600,000
Yeah,
reimbursement.
I just don't wanna
I'm
say
sorry.
on behalf
So,
of, like.
for some, my internet is not connecting right now, but for the total, and this would be for, there are several individuals that are certified in central office, our business department, our administrators, building subs, substitutes were frozen,
Yeah.
and some non-certified staff, like our interventionists and our behavior techs, were also frozen. So it would ensure that our administrators get their contractual raises that were in their union allowance. It would ensure that our central office staff get their projected 2.5%. It would ensure that our staff that are non-union, like our substitutes and all of that, get their projected 2.5% raises, so.
Melanie, what is the administrative, what's the percentage rate on that? Is it also 2%?
So no, contractually, they had taken 1% 2 years ago, 1% a year ago, and then this year, it was supposed to be a 3%. 2.95, 2.5, yes.
So barely cost of living.
And they had only taken 1% both years prior,
Right, I heard that.
yes.
It's just good for
So-
Yeah, I'm
people
fine.
to
I
know.
didn't realize that our
No,
good
no,
fortune
but
times.
But it's
My
good.
apologies to everybody involved.
Yeah, the rest of the money we basically have
But
planned,
it's
and I
good
know
for-
they're gonna talk about it later. They're gonna
So we had a
put it like
motion,
that.
we had a second. Any further discussion?
No, I just say it's good for people to know that, you know, and we're having these discussions so people understand,
Right.
you know, and just aren't shooting blind, that they understand what is actually happening and why we're asking where the money's coming from.
Understood.
Yeah. So I'm glad we did that.
Hold on, I'll second,
All in favor?
He's really on board.
Thank you, and I'm sure the administrators and the other people are thankful as well.
And thank you to them for offering to
Yes.
sacrifice, because that's incredible.
There is. expenses.
So Tori, you wanted to talk about
You gotta
the
fix your
Gilbert
mics.
contract?
Gilbert contract, all right. I attended my first Gilbert meeting.
Thank you
It was-
for your service. Yes.
And knowing we still don't have a Gilbert contract, you know, I did find a good, you know, it to be a good board and everything. I was surprised and I thought everything was great there. And I was, you know, taken aback that we can't figure out a contract together. So I think that the best way forward, in my opinion, is to start with a very small, very, very simple contract that we can just move forward on and build upon, as opposed to just throwing in this humongous contract that everyone has a problem with. I'm looking for a very small list of things that everyone can agree upon that will make a good faith and a good community with Gilbert. So here's my 3 things. Winchester Public Schools and Gilbert agree to hold at least one meeting annually, 1 month prior to the first budget meeting.
Together.
Together, a joint meeting, 1 meeting yearly, 1 month prior to our Winchester Public Schools' first budget meeting, as in we set the budget. Number 2, Winchester Public Schools and Gilbert agree to share via email with all board members, both boards, all approved policies, votes on change in curriculum, votes on finance and grant opportunities. This is due to the fact that in talking about some of the policies there, I had people on the Gilbert board tell me they would have loved to know we had a policy on that. They would have piggybacked on it. They would have, you know, and I don't, you know, this is the first time I have ever talked to any of these people, but just in good faith, I think if we shared these things just via a quick email, and I know we can all read each other's minutes if we were ever inclined to do so, but just sending an email out, I think, would be good. And then 3, something very simple and easy. Winchester Public Schools and Gilbert agree to share snow plowing services. And this is just because I don't think you need 2 snow plows for 3 schools.
Interesting.
And I just think I think anyone else could add anything, subtract anything, I'm open to hear it. But just something simple we can all agree upon and listen and get the ball rolling, add to over in the years.
I'd make it even simpler.
Right?
If we all can agree that Gilbert would agree to arbitration and mediation over the budget,
That's
we'd
not-
have no problems.
That's not,
I don't,
that's
It's
not
not simple,
No,
but
well, then you're not
that's
gonna-
really the crust of the issue.
I understand that,
It's the
Nora. I
finance.
believe me, I understand that. But knowing that we've put that in every contract so far and nothing has occurred, I'm saying we put these 3 things, I don't think anybody would have a problem with them. And
Oh,
I think
yes.
it just would get I would hope it would get the
Gilbert
ball,
would say,
I would
"You're
hope
controlling, you're
it would get the
controlling."
ball
Yeah.
rolling on us having a relationship. And that was my only goal.
is snow plowing, who does, Gilbert, I think, contracts it, right? Do they have a-
We contract ours out also, and we put it out to bid on an annual basis.
Haven't there been discussions about sharing services, though, when we've looked to, not we, you have, Nancy, have looked to kind of bring down the cost of
Right.
things? Because you've done that with the town, but what's happened when you have done that with Gilbert, when you proposed, like, sharing services?
We do that with insurance.
Okay.
Both like health insurance, like those types of insurances. We don't do that too much on like any type of capital type stuff,
Okay.
but we do more so with the town.
I didn't know if you've explored,
Yeah.
that with Gilbert, okay.
More often than not, when you need snow plowing, school is closed. So you've got some time, right? It doesn't have to be done in a 1-hour window, is
It
that true?
depends. It's hard, like on a 90-minute delay or a 2-hour delay or a 3-hour delay.
That's true.
That makes it difficult because you have to make sure you have a contractor, one that has the means to be able to get multiple schools, multiple driveways, all points of access and egress done. So you have to have a contractor that has to have a big enough fleet to be able to handle all of that. So that sometimes around in this particular area is difficult to obtain a contractor that has a big enough fleet to handle that.
It might get a little confusing too, because would that be coming out of the tuition for Gilbert, or would that be coming out of our budget side for the snow removal? Like, how would that even?
It would probably be billed separately.
Because there were a couple of things that we billed separately, right?
Yeah,
That-
normally
Well,
the contractor would just invoice Winchester Public Schools for Pearson and Pearson and Hinsdale, and the contractor would just invoice, Gilbert for their services.
I think that's
Because that hill at Gilbert, that big long driveway is gonna necessitate a boatload of salt compared to like our properties, which are relatively flat.
Right.
So, you have to identify the fact that that hill is gonna necessitate a lot more servicing than our relatively flat properties where you don't have to worry about cars skidding down that hill.
I think the first thing, though, I mean, this is kind of incidental, the snow plowing, but I think that having a yearly meeting pre-budget with Gilbert, with their board and our board, is a good first step of trying to come together and communicate as two boards, which can be difficult.
What you're describing, Tori, sounds almost like an MOU more than a contract.
It's an MLU.
Or
An
MOA.
agreement.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that term as well. And in the snow plowing, and I realize it's pretty inconsequential, but I thought that if we can all get this together and we realize, oh, maybe there's a benefit to it, maybe both people can be like, oh, wow, maybe this will work for something else too. So it would just be something that could get us started into building a better relationship.
Well, I think you're cracking the door open.
Trying to, Doug. And I think the more people we can get on board with it here tonight, the better it is for Estelle, for me, Renee, and Doug at the Gilbert meeting.
I would just like to say, this is a record that I hear over and over and over again for the last 8 years. And it really does boil down to the fact that you're sitting in the minority and that you'll have a joint meeting and you can work together and discuss. Ultimately, it's about the vote at the Gilbert School Corp, where you really are voiceless when we pay, 95% of the bill, the taxpayer pays that. So we've extended the olive branch several times. I feel like it's the American Revolution. The olive branch petition has been sent there several times through different types of representatives. We've been through many different people who've sat there and often frustrated because they sit there and they find that they don't have the voice. So, we can try to share snow plowing services. We've talked about that before in the past. But again, it's really, do the state law, do they want to give it up and allow for arbitration and mediation on the finance? And that's really all it's about, is the finance.
No, it's more than that.
Well, I mean,
It's our students. Our students go to that school.
that I understand.
But
And
you can't reduce it to one money control item, Laura. That's not fair.
one of the
That's
school
the
court
sticky-
members said that to me when I sat on the Gilbert School
Well, that's
Court.
one member said one thing.
But he'd
I
been
think-
serving for years, and he said, really, the relationship gets ugly when it gets down to the
Yes.
money.
That's-
Everything is great until it gets to the
That
money.
whole
And-
arbitration thing is literally the sticking point every time with the contract. I mean, they've submitted 14-page contracts, we've gone line by line,
Yeah.
agreed on so many things.
Yeah.
And that I've been watching over the last few years, that's really where it comes down to is, okay, if we don't agree on the budget, what do we do next? And that is where they have the right to just say, we're going to bill you this much, period. This is what we're asking for. And we're like, we should have some leeway in this. And that's what she's talking about, the arbitration. And that's when Gilbert says, absolutely not. And
You'll fi-
that's where we stop.
My
You'll
understanding is
find-
that they're not interested in going into contract negotiations with us at this point anyways. Is that the last we heard?
Well, I think most recently, the driving idea was the roof reimbursement from the state.
Right, that was the
And since
purpose
that's
for the
off the table
contract.
because of the solar project, that's
Right.
gone away. I don't think it's fair to say that they would close the door to having some cooperative agreements.
Yeah.
I don't think Tori's out of line there. I think that if you want to start a relationship that works for all of our boards and our students, start small.
I would
If you
say.
want- If you want to take on the big object, Nora,
Well,
you'll be right, you'll be
I
where you are.
know, we keep going the cycle for
No,
8
So
years.
maybe
You
Tori,
keep
at the
going.
next Gilbert meeting, you can bring up some of your ideas with them and see.
Oh, I
what they
plan
say.
to, and I was
Yeah.
hoping, if we got a good vote here tonight on this, that would be a better sell to them as well. with these 3 simple items. And that, like I said, the snow plowing is I believe a pretty inconsequential number probably compared to our whole, just all the money it takes to run a school. I get that. It's a small step that we can put our foot together towards it together that we can build off of. And that's the whole thing. Smart, very, very small. Maybe next year we'll add, mowing, like who knows, you know what I mean? But just a little bit at a time and get it
So, Tori,
work together.
Gilbert is its own district.
Correct.
So Gilbert and, like in regional, and there's so many different districts, and Mel goes to these superintendent meetings all the time. And, I know that they, like, hey, we're gonna go to bid on whatever, and, it's usually pretty open to, different groups or whatever. I don't think that Gilbert has been excluded from any, and probably been offered many times, like, okay, we're going to bid for, say, insurance, whatever, and
I would like to have the discussion about some opportunities for us to be able to engage with Gilbert. I think snow plowing's a great place to start. I also think we could look at refuse. I think that we could look at multiple areas where we have contracted services. Nancy's our business offices in both buildings could come up with a list of contracted services that we traditionally could go out to RFP on. And, there are savings in numbers. So if we can collaborate and be able to use our efficiencies by collaborating together, I don't see what the worst thing that can happen is we don't save any money and we don't realize any savings by going through the exercise. The best thing that can happen is that we do. So I don't see the harm in exploring the possibility.
Is there gonna be an issue if, because we're a public school entity, spending public school dollars, and now that Gilbert's like a private school, so that's different?
Shouldn't be, not for this. So when
Wasn't
we do an RFP, which is a request for proposals, it's simply saying, like, using snow plowing, for example, we would put out a joint RFP in collaboration between the Gilbert School and the Winchester Public Schools. In the description, we would say we are looking for X, Y, and Z services, and we would put a description of what the Gilbert School needs, what the Winchester Public Schools needs. And then when they bid, they would need to come back in and we would specifically say, please provide a particular price for the Gilbert School and for the Winchester School. And we would identify that when it comes to invoicing and billing, that you would be billing both entities separately.
See if you have a savings from that.
Correct.
Breakdown.
Yes, from what our years past contracts have been.
So Tori, would you like to put that in the form of a motion? Or is that what you've done so far?
I believe I had done that, but I'm happy to state it again, Doug.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I would like to make a motion to put forward a MO, you guys want to call it a contract or an MOU, Doug?
I think an MOU would be more appropriate for this at this stage, but. because
Everyone
there's
feels comfortable. An MOU, Winchester Public Schools in Gilbert agreed to hold at least one annual meeting 1 month prior to the first budget meeting. Point 2, Winchester Public Schools in Gilbert agreed to share via email with all board members all approved policies, votes on curriculum change, votes on finance, and grant opportunities. Number 3, Winchester Public Schools and Gilbert agree to share snowplow services. We'll just leave it at
Can
that.
we just say look into
Or we
the
could
possibility of that?
We can
We'd have to
explore,
look.
as
Can I
Mel
make a
said.
friend?
Yes,
May I
please.
make a discussion before I maybe suggest a friendly amendment? For number 2, would it make sense, because our board packet, now under the new legislation, our packets have to be posted online, would it make sense, since all of those motions are in the packet, that it be that the superintendent or head of schools must forward to the respective boards the board packet, because then they would have access to full access,
I love it.
as opposed to just those specified.
And I wanted to highlight grant opportunities. I had just written that in last minute, but but I think that should be a separate,
So
if you
that
will,
would be
a
in
separate
here,
email.
because we have that in here.
Okay, and that's fine, but I don't know that Gilbert utilizes as many grants as we do. So it would be, a behoove of us as well as the taxpayers of this town to make sure we say, look at the grant we applied for, guys. We got it, you should maybe try it,
Can I ask a question? I'm so sorry. And then Nancy, I saw you, Nancy had her hand raised too, sorry.
Just a point of information too, all of the approved board policies that we have are on the website too, and they can be accessed
yes.
easily, yeah.
I do know that.
And then, I'm just curious, do they make their agendas public, or do they have public minute, I mean, I
Not
feel like,
consistent.
I know the
It is
answer.
not
But
consistent.
I'm just wondering, so when they have to share via email, like the votes on curriculum change it, I mean, we've had that curriculum conversation before with that. I
And I'm
appreciate your
hoping that they
proposal.
will.
Okay, yeah, did you mention any of this to them yet? I'm
No,
just
my
curious if
first
you
board
took the
meeting was the
temperature
last
on it.
board meeting,
Cool.
and I
Okay.
came here with seeing how they reacted, and I
Yeah.
thought if I can maybe get us to something small, I think I can really sell them on something, me, Doug, and Renee together.
Perfect, okay.
I'm hoping.
Totally just curious, I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it, okay.
And like you said, it's like a foot in the door of trying to expand our relationship with them, because I get what you're saying, Nora,
Yeah.
but it is a circular, just like education in Connecticut, it's a circular argument.
So is that just for the administration to share that stuff via email, or is it to Board of Ed, to board?
I would say the administration would forward to
The Board of
the
Ed.
boards.
Right.
Is this after the meetings, the minutes?
That's what I mean, it's just,
Or is it the
I
agenda
had wrote in
before the meeting?
approved policies, approved changes,
So
was
you're
how I had
talking about the
thought.
minutes of their
the
meetings?
minutes following the.
So maybe their
the
And
decision.
their,
You're saying
you
the
want their
votes.
packets?
Like what
Saying
we have,
packet.
I like the idea of the packet because it gives us a very in-depth and detailed.
Well, the minutes aren't official until they're voted in, which is the
And I would
next
prefer
meeting.
not to have
So that would
But
be in the
packet
packet
would
anyway.
include the previous.
Minutes.
You're right.
Minutes,
So Melanie,
including
Right.
votes and
Right,
such, yeah.
And Greg would share with that, like, and that's how it would trickle down to, okay.
Yeah, I was just envisioning, like, we sent them an email, Winchester Public Schools approved these policies tonight. Winchester Public Schools, approved this amount of money for the AC, and we just, so they see what we're doing and we see what they're doing. Approval of these things.
So you want agendas, packets, and minutes?
And that falls on
Board
you.
packets.
Because,
Well, they can just,
Whatever they have.
Well, I can't send them approved minutes
Right.
until the following month,
Month,
so
right.
that would be month. So I think the best thing to do would always just send the board
The packet.
packet,
And if they were
because it will
interested,
have the
yeah.
approved minutes from the previous month, and it'll see what was up for, or what is up for discussion this month.
exactly.
And have the.
Yeah, and that's a
agenda.
lot easier for everyone involved too, because they could send a packet.
Yeah,
as
and it's
well.
just
I think
one
so, too.
email.
Yeah, right.
You're
Yes.
doing the work,
Yeah.
yeah, yes.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
But just, we send them theirs.
No, that's fine. I like
We
that.
get theirs, they send them, and we send them ours.
And these are now posted online now, so the whole entire thing is online now. So
Interesting.
it has our agenda posted online, and then underneath it, it says board packet for August 8th. And then you get all 244 glorious pages.
All the hires and everything.
Everything is, this entire thing is in there now.
Does everybody understand the friendly amendments to what Tori is presenting?
Yes, I second his.
Okay, and the last item, we would say to explore the possibility of sharing snow plowing services, right?
Or Melanie had said, what is it? Well, she said refuse
Refuse,
too.
but I would say any type of contracted services.
Contracted services, we'll say.
Yeah, save
Okay,
money,
we
it's a
have a
good
motion,
thing.
is there a second?
I second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All against? 1,
Abstain.
and then 1 abstention. Did you get that, Barb?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you for putting some thought into that, Tori, appreciate it. And
Thank you
I
for your
thought the
service.
last meeting was,
Really, you know.
at the Gilbert School was very good as well. There were some new members from the trust.
Great.
Seems like a good group, so.
Who are the new members on the trust?
Jason Fritsch, Jared
Jared
Fritsch.
Jared Frisch, okay.
Does anybody know him? Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah, seems like a nice guy.
Yeah, nice guy.
Okay, So I think we're up to policies, am I right?
Whole boatload of them.
First read, second read, first read. Cheryl's not here, which means we could just say, yeah, we looked at them.
I mean, we did.
We've looked at these a lot, yeah.
We have to make motions for each of them?
Do we, or in a packet? But, Mr. Chairman, I have something I'd like to say before we start going through these. May I?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So, we've gone through a lot of policies over the last several months, right? And one of the things that was brought to us was that we were going to non-gender our policies. And my question at the time, and the same as the question I have now, is why? Why are we doing this? And one of my questions, and our committee chairman isn't here, but is any other school district non-gendering policy? We all voted, but is any other district? I can tell you that New Hartford is not, I can tell you Torrington is not, and I can tell you that Gilbert is not going through policy and non-gendering the language. I feel that it is a controversial topic, especially right now. But in going through our policies, I could see some of the benefit, language-wise, to begin changing language such as he/she, which always bothered me, right? It's awkward, and changing it to their, that kind of thing. The superintendent, instead of referring he/she, the superintendent, they. That makes sense to me, right? We're clarifying language, we're doing things that, but I feel that the reasoning behind doing some of this is different from mine, which was to clean up the language. And I think it wasn't until we got to the FERPA policy, which was the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, where it became kind of apparent in my asking why we're choosing to non-gender the language. I was told because of inclusivity. I'm for inclusivity and including people. However, when it came to the actual of changing that policy, and we took out mother's maiden name and put parent's birth name, okay, I did bring up that I did not agree with that. I believe it was our superintendent who said that we do, for privacy, right? It's used for privacy, having to put in mother's maiden names. And I just had to get my passports, and that, all federal, requires a mother's maiden name. So in the spirit of being inclusive, I said, okay, let's keep mother's maiden name and let's put in parent's birth name, which is what it wanted to be changed to. And there was some discussion, but not really, and then it was brought to a vote as to whether we would be inclusive and keep mother's maiden name or just switch completely to parent's birth name. I feel like I'm kind of beating a dead horse here, and I feel that having to discuss this kind of stuff in our committee meetings and in our board meetings, it is not our job to bring parents along. It is not our job to, I remember when we had the breastfeeding policy, and an op-ed was written in the Republican American about our board and how do we not understand science because we changed the language from breastfeeding women to breastfeeding persons. That's not the kind of attention I feel that our board should be garnering, but it happened. That vote, and certainly not being inclusive of keeping mother's maiden name and also putting in parent's birth name, kind of showed there is really no inclusivity that is intended. So, I just want to say that if we're doing this because of a political ideology in the name of inclusivity, that has no place in a school district. Political ideology has no place in a school district. It has no place in a classroom. We voted about flags. I thought we were all on board that the only flag we were going to have were American flags because we want no controversy. And yet, you know, it's a slippery slope. And I understand the slippery slope. And I'm just asking you guys to really think about this in terms of what we're voting on. I really don't want to end up again in op-ed in Republican American saying that we don't understand science, we don't understand what are we doing, you know? It doesn't seem right. I don't understand quite what we're doing here.
Sandra, do your comments apply to any of the policies that we're reading tonight, first or second?
The FERPA is in the first,
Number 4.
and, you know, but this is kind of just overall, Doug. I mean, that,
I understand that, and
Yeah.
and I know we've had the discussions in the past,
yep,
but ultimately, some of those policies have already been voted on and approved, right?
correct.
So I don't know, are you suggesting we go backwards, or are you suggesting as we go forward?
I
that we think a
suggest
little
that we discuss this, because what is the reason truly why we are doing this? And if no other school districts are doing this, and we're trying to be groundbreaking, I can think of other ways I would choose to be groundbreaking as Winstead.
So Sandra, I hear what you're saying, and so it's the maiden name versus the birth name that we put in place, is that correct?
It
That's the
was that we
issue.
took out mother's maid, but it's not just that, because again, I kind
I
of
just feel like if you have birth name in there, I know that there is sometimes men that choose to change their name from their birth name because they have,
yes.
for various reasons.
And that's why I had suggested, if you want parents' birth name, but let's keep in, and that was shot down. That was put to a vote quickly, and Tori and I were the only ones who voted no. You know,
Right.
that
Well,
we
that's
wanted, we
probably-
felt that it was appropriate to keep both, because, again, we were trying to be inclusive. So my point
But
is,
birth name
why are we
is
doing this?
both for, that's your maiden name and your,
I understand, but we're
It's
also
the
getting
same.
rid of mother's maiden name, which is an accepted form. Again, I just did my passports and everything required mother's maiden name. We do when you have to do
I think it felt
passwords.
duplicative though, right?
yeah, that's the issue we were having is
Is
it
that it felt what?
was.
I think we just felt it was duplicative to say it. I totally get what you're saying, don't get me,
Yeah.
like, I do, but in that instance, I think that's where it landed.
So what we can do is make votes, first, seconds on each of the policies, and if you disagree with FERPA, we'll vote on each one individually, separately.
We could, but again, I just want to bring to the attention of this board, what is it we are trying to do? Because I will bring it back to that breastfeeding policy. Do we really want to go down the path of saying breastfeeding persons? I know what my vote is on that. I know what the majority probably of parents' vote is on that. And do we really want to put our time and attention and focus onto something like that?
Well, I would say with my tendency to edit and correct and update things all the time and look for the most ridiculous mistakes, just consistency. And I'll use Gilbert's as an example because we would review policies and it would have the most outdated, the superintendent, he, blah, blah, blah. And this is when they didn't have superintendents. It was headmasters, and then he was going to be head of school. And I went to, superintendent again, or, whatever it was. And it was like, can we kill the he, because it's not automatically he, and could we just, come up with a title and kind of, you've got 7 different variations of the same, could we kind of streamline this?
And that's-
so no matter what we look at, we're looking at the same thing.
And that's what we did, right? We took out he, she, we would use
Right,
they, we took
exactly.
out, instead of referring to the
And
superintendent.
so instead of saying he, she, you could say
the
employee,
superintendent, employee.
teacher.
Right, Right,
Superintendent.
correct.
I think that's what we
Student.
did with most of these policies.
We did, but this, my
So-
problem was when we got to FERPA.
Okay.
And then it kind of became apparent that where we were going, and then again, going back to breastfeeding, it's, yeah, I will say it one more time, loudly and clearly, political ideology has no place, as far as I'm concerned, in Winchester District.
I move the motion to start to vote for policy 4118.112. I make a motion to move that policy to second read.
I have corrections for that one,
Corrections for that?
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, right? All right, page 53.
Well, are we gonna start at page 51 and start at the top so poor Barb can go in order, please?
Okay.
That's part of, is that right?
That's page.
Page 51 would be harassment in the workplace. It's
That's-
policy 4118.112A.
It's the same policy.
This is involved, yeah.
Yeah. I guess we go page by page now. It's fine. Anyone for page 51? Any corrections? No? Can we move on to 52? Any corrections for page 52? Is this, my understanding this is what we're doing?
Are there corrections, or can we just?
We just can
batch
approve the
that?
policy as edited.
Well, no,
Right.
there's
Oh,
this,
you just said there were issues.
yeah, there's just something I just.
So which
All right,
page
so
do
go
you have
ahead.
Page 53.
All right.
So, or at least in our packet, it's page 53.
Yep.
It's still 4218.112 under training requirements. And it says, note, Title 19, or Title 9 contains specific training requirements for individuals serving as investigators or decision makers or decision makers. It's just a delete,
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
delete.
good catch.
because these are pretty much already like all,
Wait, Chris,
been
say that
bumping.
again?
Page 53.
Yep.
It's said
There's
twice.
a duplication right there.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's just, it's a typo.
Got it.
Well, then are we able to just vote on the first one?
With
That is
that
the same
change,
one.
right, so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go through each one with any edits, and then we vote. So any other, Kristen?
yep.
Okay.
54, sorry,
Same policy.
56, same policy,
Alright.
which is under staff training. After D,
Oh, back to A.
and then note, use the free statutory requirements. At the end of that, there's, I put an X on something, so
Half of
It's a
parentheses.
parentheses.
that's what it was, yeah, because I'm like, it didn't go back to anything.
So the parentheses starts at note?
The very end,
Or it doesn't need to be.
or does it start, or does
Doesn't
it?
need, it
So just
doesn't need
take
a
out the
parentheses.
I don't know, I don't think so,
I
unless
took
it's
it
a
out.
quote.
Delete close parentheses
It doesn't need it.
Probably made sense,
on
yeah.
page 56. Okay?
Page 57, so that would be under procedures. D, oh, no, sorry, the next section, actually, it's informal complaints,
Paragraph number?
the first paragraph. Bottom line, he, she,
Yeah.
update to they.
Okay, good catch. Someone was just doing auto search.
Yeah, you know what, I think, but sometimes it's still, because if you do HE, you're gonna hit every
Yeah.
they, the, you know, it's gonna go on
tedious.
forever. So I think this one goes on forever.
You have the edits for Barbara?
Yeah, that's the end on that one, my
Alright.
only notices. that-
All right,
Vote on that
so we could vote on that.
with those changes?
That's right. So I made a motion to approve 4118.112A to move to second read with edits.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Thanks, Chris.
That's unanimous. Want me to call it out so you can see, Barb? Okay, so that was Nora, and that was Tara, unanimous.
The next one?
Am I gonna do the next one? I don't see any problem. I don't see any edits.
Oh, 5.
So, oh, all right, okay, good.
They're all in
I'll
here.
make a motion to move 5113A to second read, pages 64 to to 69. We go there.
Do you need a second? I'll second that. Renee?
Okay.
No
I gotta
edits?
find it.
All right.
Chris, you good? Okay. Any discussion on that?
Oh, no, I'm just getting ready to vote.
All in favor?
All right, that's unanimous.
Shoot down.
Okay, I make a motion to move policy 5114B, suspension expulsion, to second read. That's pages 70 to 76.
Thank you. I'll second that.
Okay.
I do have a question, and Mel can clarify for me. Okay, so the first page of this policy, suspension,
What page is it?
70.
70 in our packet.
Okay.
Suspension, and then the third paragraph down, it says, for any one incident, student shall not be suspended for more than 10 consecutive days. No student shall be suspended more than 10 times for a total of 50 days. On the flip side, page 71, it says at the discretion of the principal, not to exceed 10 consecutive days more than 15 times, or a total of 50 days. And they're both suspensions. Is it because one says in school?
Yes,
Okay, that's the difference? Okay, thank you.
So that's okay, as is.
yes.
We also want, just for consistency's sake, to put 50 in parentheses after the 50 there in the second paragraph.
Oh, I see.
Huh?
Oh, the
I
10,
say
10,
yeah.
50, and then the, yeah, 15, 50, I see what you mean.
I don't, so
Okay.
just add the number after 50 days?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, just.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, add the actual number on page 71.
Any other comments, questions, edits on that? If not, all in favor?
Sorry,
Wait,
I apologize. First page,
What page is
below, sorry, it's 70. So it's back to that first page. After the one where I asked about the, for any incident, the next paragraph, in-school suspension shall be served in the school attended by the student, and then it's or language. And so I'm not sure if we need to strike one or the other.
Which paragraph?
1, 2, 3, 4, I think down. Starts with in-school suspension.
I would use the or language, so I would strike the first sentence.
okay.
It gives you flexibility.
Good Kristen read all this.
So we're taking out in-school suspension shall be served in the school attended by the student?
By the student, I would say such suspensions may be served in the school building under the jurisdiction of the Board of Education. The board has determined that in-school suspension shall be served in the following district schools. Because sometimes if you have, let's say, a fight between two students, I may want to move a student that had a fight at Pearson to serve their suspension at Hinsdale to separate them from students.
So we're taking out the parentheses there.
Yes, the
Yes.
word or,
The end-
take
at
it
the
out.
end
So the
of
policy,
Pearson too?
Get rid
Yeah,
of
the
first
parentheses.
sentence too, right?
yeah, strike,
And then,
so,
let's not forget that last hanging parentheses.
I took it out.
right, take that out too. So we're striking in-school suspension shall be served in the school attended by the student, parenthesis, or, stop. All right. Okay, Nora made first, Tara made second, with the edits, all in favor? Unanimous? Okay. All right, that's 1, 2, 3. Okay, policy number 4. I make a motion to move 5125A to second read.
I would like to also include mother's maiden name, please,
Well, we have to
as
second
well
that.
as parents' birthday.
We gotta second it.
Second.
Okay. So Nora and Tori.
And
Okay.
where is the, that inclusion?
Page 85.
512, I'm in the wrong policy. No, I'm there. 512. I'm sorry, what page?
85. I love that these are numbered.
Family members and the day, the place of birth, and mother's maiden name.
You said
Bring
that's
it
So you wanna make an edit to bring it back?
Correct, as well as keeping, it's fine to keep the parent's birth name. But again,
No, both.
both, that was the original.
Slash,
The name of the student.
mother's, wait a minute, mother's maiden name slash parent's birth.
Or
Or and/or,
or just use
which now
or.
we're getting into and/or language, which
Right,
kind of
so just
negates.
maybe or,
Parents,
just
or
do rather than
parents'
slash or,
birth.
just put or. Mother's maiden name or parent's birth name.
Okay.
Everybody good with that?
I have two,
Oh,
they're both his, hers.
What page?
So page 78, school official paragraph, the very end line, his, her tasks.
there,
Yep, just
Okay.
for continuity.
you see that paragraph's right dead in the center.
And page 82, student record confidentiality definition, and then the one that starts student record, and it would be the third line towards the end, his, her duties.
Yep, there. You guys need it, where we're at? Okay, so, go back to page 78, the one with the green. One was 72.
You guys got the other one, right?
Yeah.
Oh, got it.
Thank you. Okay, good. Anything else?
Don't think
Okay.
so.
So we have a second. All in favor of the changes with the edits? All opposed? Was that unanimous? Or abstention?
From this one, the,
Yeah.
Oh, wait, this is.
Yep, this is FERPA
We didn't have a
5125.
first and second.
I did, Tori
Laura
did.
did the first.
Oh,
I'm
I
gonna
mean-
abstain from that one.
Okay, so,
I just feel
can
like
we
it's
revote, because I
on
need to
it
see
there.
numbers, because I didn't count. All in favor? 1, 2, 3.
So
Are you
Nora-
voting?
I'm sitting here listening to you.
Uh-huh, okay.
I think I could go home. So you're up to.
I'm not sure what that means.
yeah,
I'm listening to it,
concrete-
I wanna go
We're
home.
up to policy 5, Doug. We just finished 4 and voted.
Gosh, this one goes to what page?
Yeah.
This is the ginormous one, right?
First 120, right?
Yep.
Electronics.
So can we go back and get a vote on that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
are we still
yeah, we need to
voting
vote
on
on
the
this.
number 4,
We're
right?
voting on number 4, it's FERPA. It's been moved and seconded with edits, 5125A. All in favor? Okay, how many is that?
5, 6, 7.
7. All opposed? Abstention? Okay, 1 abstention. There's 8 of us here today, yeah, okay. All right, moving on. Policy number 6141.327, electronic resources.
What page, Nora?
That's on page 121, and it goes to page 122. Man, it's short.
That's a short one.
121. All right. So I make a motion to move it to second read, policy number 6141.327A.
I'll second.
Okay. So Nora and Jeanette. Any changes, edits, or tweaks? Okay, all in favor? That's unanimous? Sure. Okay, unanimous, moving on. I make a motion to move policy 614263 PE, aquatic stuff, page 123. Let me move there. Is that seconded?
Renee, I'll second your motion.
Renee, okay, we're on page 123, everybody, policy number 6142-63.63. Any changes? Okay, all in favor? Unanimous. Okay, moving on. Policy number 6144.1, exemption from instruction. That starts on page 140. Big fingers for
I'll
this.
second, move that to second read.
All right, so Nora.
Renee?
Renee. Any edits to page 140? So I need to lick my fingers. 145, I think it goes
No,
to.
142.
142, my bad.
Sorry, sorry.
142. Oh, right? Yeah,
Ah,
yeah. It stops at 140, what?
Yeah.
Right? Hold on,
The page is missing.
sums up.
What?
140, 141,
Oh, yeah.
142. So the policy's intact.
Oh, it must be something taken
Yeah.
out.
The policy's intact, so 6144.1.
A little misnumber.
Okay, that's
All
fine.
right. So any edits?
I couldn't ask Darlene to go back and renumber.
All in favor?
I was hoping you wouldn't notice.
All in favor? All right, Doug, unanimous? All right,
Couldn't do
unanimous.
it to her.
Moving on. Policy, uh-oh, I made, 6153, field trips. I'm gonna make that motion to move it to second read. Do I have a second?
A second.
Jeanette? Any edits? We're on a roll, everybody. All in favor?
Just drink.
Unanimous, Renee, yeah?
Yep, yep.
Okay.
Wait, who was that? Nora and Renee?
Jeanette, Nora and Jeanette.
Nora and Jeanette.
And my question is, can you take the next batch and do it as a batch?
I'm in favor of that.
Kristen, are there any
We're here all
corrections?
night.
I didn't get to the end of these, so I'm just gonna have to roll it.
Thank you.
Wouldn't you rather have it done right the first time, man?
All right.
That's
So,
the second read.
it's the second read. We've been through this twice at least before. Okay. We're okay with making this one fell swoop?
Yes.
All
For a
right.
second,
For the second read item.
I say we table until November.
Still move, second.
What happened to September?
Was that a motion?
Why?
Not here.
Boo! Okay. So, I make a motion to move all policies under second read to exception, to accept, to approve.
Oh, to approve?
To
All
approve,
policies.
to
under
approve
second
all
read.
policies as the second read as official
Sorry,
policies.
Doug, you gotta put in a vote.
All right,
You can
Jeanette-
abstain.
Jeanette seconds the entire packet
The entire
for
packet.
second read. All in favor of moving all policies under second read to permanent policy?
To permanent,
That's,
what do you mean,
that's
to
like,
Move
like
to
official.
implement.
Official, move to make it official?
Move to implement.
Move to implement, okay. So that was 7. Were you in
Oh, I'm
favor?
sorry. I was-
Okay, so it's unanimous. All right, so moving all policies under second read to implementation. To implementation, Barb. Yep, implementation. So that means they're official policy of the district. So that's unanimous.
That's all good.
So that's Nora and Jeanette unanimous.
Everything's
Give
good.
us one false motion.
Okay, we're all done with policies?
Yeah.
Thank you, Nora, for doing that,
Welcome.
because I kind of tuned out.
Sorry.
It didn't
show.
No,
Public comment?
Oh, not yet.
Yes.
no, wait, we
Whoa,
got
whoa.
stuff on the agenda yet.
What's that?
So I make a
Grants.
motion to accept all grants.
We got the grants that we gotta look at.
Oh,
I
that's
mean, we read through those, but we
Can
didn't
we
talk.
do
Oh, I
those
guess
in
that
one
policy-
motion?
You can accept all the grants in one
One fell
motion,
swoop.
because these are just grant applications that we are going to apply for. These are not acceptances of funds as of right
All
now.
great
Make a
grants.
motion.
Okay, motion
accept.
to accept all the grants from from
Sandra.
Sandra.
Second.
Second from Tori, all in
Tori.
favor?
Unanimous.
Okay, we're good?
Barb, you okay?
Wait, you had that first one, Sandra?
Tori was second.
Tori, unanimous on all of those grants.
And we have
Is
one
this
person who'd
calendar
like to-
being just like, is this part of an application, or is this just randomly?
No,
Nope,
it's
that's
except
in
for
there.
one.
It's the schedule for the tutoring program.
Oh, got it, thank you.
Brian?
Public comment?
Yep. Make sure it's on for you.
How do we get a microphone?
Must have went upstairs.
There's a little red button or something, I think you have to press.
We can hear you.
Hi, Brian Sunday, 152 Spencer Hill Road. I was at home making dinner for my kid who is just leaving Winchester Public Schools, heading to the Gilbert School. And in your conversation about the Gilbert School, I heard the phrase broken record used. And in listening to the conversation, I really felt compelled to come down just to applaud Board Member LaVetri for the spirit of what you are trying to accomplish in bringing the two boards together, to work more collaboratively, to have a more positive relationship going forward. And I just wanted to come down and say that, so thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming to say that.
That's awesome. Thanks for listening to our board meeting.
Move to adjourn.
What to eat for dinner?
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Who made the motion? Who seconded the motion? Sandra. Jeanette, Sandra, 9:13,
Nancy?
unanimous.
Guys, hold on, guys, hold on, because you're still on TV. Let Nancy turn TV off,
All
please.
right.
Yes.
Cool now.
No, you're not.
What?
Why not?
Yeah, now you're off. Okay.